Good morning, friends. So we have decided this year to try our hand at doing some gardening. So we decided to do raised beds. You can see those videos and see the beds that we built. But we started with 2, it grew to 4, added a ginormous one, and added a bunch of pots. So this has led us to a lot of watering. And what I have found, because we also built a greenhouse, we have a video on that too, I have found that I thought, oh, I can water, it's not a big deal, but it takes me a long time to water in the greenhouse, and then once we separate everything out into all the different areas, it's definitely too much. Not only that, I have learned in my research that watering is very critical with regards to not getting it on the leaves and all of that good stuff, making sure there's enough water but not too much water. In this video, I'm going to be showing you 3 different types of irrigation that hopefully will help you. Now, I'm no expert by any means. I'm just going to show you what I got, and I got 3 different kinds so you can see it, see how easy it is to install, how it does watering, and just kind of give you an overview of the 3 different things with regards to cost as well. The first one is Mr. Landscaper Vegetable Garden Drip Kit. So that's the first one we're going to be doing. The second one is a terracotta Ola pot called Back to the Roots. This is the second one we're going to look at. And the third one is a drip irrigation kit by Vatoni. So it is a micro irrigation system with 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch tubing with nozzle emitters, and we're going to put that together too. So we've got 3 different kinds. They are different, much different with how much they cost, so we'll talk about that. And I suspect they're different with the installation, and we'll see how they do with the watering. So let's start with Mr. Landscaper.
So the first trick is to use some hot water to soak the ends of the tubing in to make it easier to attach. Then the next thing is to use one of the tees that they provide so that we can attach this to the tubing, which is pretty simple. You just push it on and then you're going to twist the top, and then you're able to attach it to the other end of the tubing so that you can create 2 different lines, which is what I wanted to do. Once I attached both ends into the line, then I used the timer and I attached the timer to the faucet, then attached the regulator to the timer and the tubing to the timer. It's pretty straightforward. The next thing we did was line up and attach the tubing to the side of the greenhouse and to the sides of the raised beds so that we made sure it was secure and it didn't move. For our purpose, we went ahead and used just some U-clamps and screwed them onto the legs. At the end of each run, they give you a clamp it's pretty easy. You just cut your tubing and then you clamp that down just by bending it. It's very simple, not too complicated at all. The next step was to use the tool that they provided and the barbs to go ahead and poke a hole into the large tubing so that we could attach the small tubing. So you push the barb in and it snaps in place. Once you have that snapped in place, then you're going to take the smaller 1/2 inch tubing and you're going to attach it onto that barb. Now this is still not your drip tubing. This is just simply going to get you to your area where you're going to put your drip tubing. And again, use that hot water to push it on. It goes so much easier. Once we got the small tubing to the top, we then did the same thing with the drip irrigation. And the first thing we did was put an on-off switch at the end so that we could shut that off at each different bed if we wanted to. Using that hot water, then push that into place. That was simply really the biggest thing, just pushing that into place and then using some clips to put your drip irrigation around where you want it to go. At the very end, you have a button at the end that you simply need to get that end heated up again. Then you're going to use that button and push it in the end to end that specific run with the drip irrigation. We did that in each bed.
So one of the things that we purchased for our container plants, not all of them, but some of them, because some of them are just farther away from the drip system that we're going to put in, we purchased these clay pots, and yes, they have a name, and I can't think of what that name is right now, but nonetheless, these are back to the roots. They were ones that were not quite as expensive as some of the others, but you put this down into the dirt with the plant. The top comes off, you fill it with water, and it leaks out and keeps the soil moist for about a week, and then you fill it back up again. So we did purchase some of these. We'll put a link in the description. All right, so we're now on our third irrigation system for my plants. So we did, the first one was Mr. Landscaper, and that is drip irrigation tubing. Then we did the pots, which you put directly into the containers. And now the third one that I have is made by Vatoni, and it is a drip irrigation system, but again, I'm really new to all of this. And when I got it, I realized it is very different than Mr. Landscaper and the drip tubing. This is not drip tubing, but rather we have like little sprinklers, if you will, that are going to go into with each plant. So of course, to start out with, I can tell you right now, we're going to look at the ease of installing. We're also going to look at the price, and then maybe later on we'll come back and talk about the functionality and kind of how it lasted. But for today, we're going to install the Vatoni. I will say it does have a full warranty. Again, we'll put the links to all this stuff in there. Starting with the price. So the price of this Vatoni, the price of the Vatoni was significantly cheaper than Mr. Landscaper. It was about half the price of that. I'll say the most expensive option are the pots. I think just because it's about this little one was about $10, so it's going to be about $10 per container, and you can do a whole lot more than that with any one of the drip irrigation systems. So cost, this is the most expensive, then we had Mr. Landscaper, and then we have the Vatoni. So one thing about the Vatoni I will say is it does have a full warranty, it says, so it is a warranty on all of the products. I can tell you right now, when I look at, here's the 1/2-inch tubing that we're gonna start with to install it. It is much different than the Mr. Landscaper tubing. I don't know if you can tell on there, but Mr. Landscaping tubing, this is very, very tough, very hard tubing. And this one is very, very flexible. So you could easily get this tied up in a knot. I'm not sure how that will be. So anyway, that's just one thing I've noticed right away. One difference with this too is the Mr. Landscaper drip tubing. The drip tubing is on like a barb system. They have little barbs that you're connecting in. And this is not a barb system. This is installing it right into these, and we're going to be pushing it in, and it looks like it pushes in and then clamps on it. Okay, so the first step is going to be to lay out your 1/2-inch tubing main water line, because all of your 1/4-inch tubing with the drip irrigation is going to come off of that main line, and you want to have that first. It does say to go ahead and make sure that you have 45 to 75 PSI, which is a little different than Mr. Landscaper, which was 25 PSI, but they gave you a reducer to use with theirs. So I'm going to go ahead and I want to do this section right here, and then out here on the flagstone, I want to do a whole nother section. I have 2 kits, so I'm going to run off of this timer. I've laid out my 1/2-inch tubing. I'm going to use one of these right here, and I'm going to split off that main tubing, one section going this way, one going over here. Then when I get down to the flagstone where I run out of my 1/2-inch tubing and need to start another 1/2-inch tubing, what I'm going to do is go ahead and start my 1/4 inch tubing with this little piece right here, so that I can go ahead and start my first section, and then I'll be able to keep going from there. So first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and get this 1/2 inch main water line secured down, because we don't want it floating all over the place. So the first thing I'm gonna do is get this 1/2 inch tubing connected to my timer. So what I wanna do is I want to run a piece that will come from my timer down, and then I'll split off into the 2 sections. So I've got to have a piece that's about right here.
It's just kind of a standard kind of a compression fitting. So you put the screwing part that comes off onto the hose, and what you're going to do is you're going to press that into the hose until it's over that, and then you're going to bring the screw part back on.
Oh, pretty simple.
Screw it down, and then you've got a nice good connection.
All right, so now we have this first connection, and that's going to connect into our hose,
The water timer.
the water timer. So now now that we've hooked this in, we're gonna bring it down to the bottom. The reason we're doing that is just because we don't want all these. We can limit the cords, and we are gonna go ahead and use this T, and we're gonna do the same thing as we did with the top. We're gonna connect.
You gotta put that little piece on first.
Oh wait, let me make this straighter too.
Nope, it goes on the hose.
This goes on the hose. So we're gonna put that on. Then we're going to slide this over. It does give you the same tip too, to use a warm cup of water. Should I be going down further?
That's the compression right there.
And then screw that on.
In the warm weather, this hose is actually quite easy to deal with.
All right, so now we have 2 water lines that are going to come off of this. So that's where we're using this T. We're gonna do the same thing again. You do wanna make sure that your cut is pretty straight. Makes it stay on better. Slide that in, really easy. The question is going to be whether or not it leaks. So now we're ready to go ahead and run our sprinklers into our containers. So we're going to use this little thing right here, and this is going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4 little sprinkler options, and we're going to connect that to the 1/2 inch tubing. So I'm going to take the end just like I did when I put the ends on to go to the spigot. Slide it through, push it on, and secure it. And now that I have one side on, I'm going to take the 1/2 inch tubing and simply go onto the other side of this fitting. So now that I have that there, I'm going to measure out my 1/4 inch tubing to each basket that I want to go to. And I know this is going to be down on the ground right here. So I'm kind of going to measure out a little bit more than what I think I might need. This is a little bit harder tubing than the 1/2 inch tubing. So what do you do to this?
Push it in.
That's it?
Yeah.
So I just push this in.
Sorry, yep, all the way in there. Pull on it and make sure it's in there. Yep.
That was pretty easy. And then I'm going to, I have different kinds of sprinklers, and I'm not really exactly sure what they look like, so we're gonna try them. I have one that appears that it sprays out the side like a little fountain. This one right here just kind of drips out, and then we have another little drip one as well. So we're gonna do this one first. I'm gonna push it in, and then run my line and hook it into my plant box. So you can see this one right here. If you can see, it's kind of like what I would call a spider.
and you can adjust it big, small, so that it drips. I just want it dripping.
That's dripping.
Then this one right here is just a different, it's more of a flat cone. But again, I want to turn that down, so that's just dripping as well. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and finish all of these down here and get these sprinklers in and all of this set up, and we will check back in a little bit.
Okay, so we finished this section over here. Didn't take us very long at all, and now we're going to finish the section by the greenhouse.
All right, so we got it done. It didn't take too long. It was pretty easy to do. So we've set up the 3 irrigation systems, and we'll see how that goes. What I can tell you so far is if you're looking at cost, the Vetoni is definitely the winner with regards to cost. It's a little less expensive than the others. With regards to setting it up, I would also say that it was the easiest to set up. Of course, the jars, the clay jars that you put in, those are pretty easy to set up as well. But I would say those are only going to be good for those really hard to reach areas, those kinds of things that if it's in a spot where you just don't want tubes and various hoses coming into that area. So then the second thing that I would say with regards to, so we've got setup and cost, Vetoni meets, it really does, it definitely to me rose above. Now the last part of all this though is a process of figuring out the whole water thing. How long should it run? What time of day? Do you want to do it twice? Do you want to do it once? Because we got our timer, so our timer is able to do that. But here's the thing, with the Vetoni, it is much more challenging with controlling the water because you have an option to really turn on a lot of water and it can soak it pretty quickly. Whereas the drip system, it's going to do it slowly with Mr. Landscaper. So I would say the ease of setting up the water with Mr. Landscaper, it's already kind of done for you. You don't have to figure that out too much other than just adjusting how long you let it run. But with the Vetoni, you're going to have to spend a little more time adjusting those sprinklers. One advantage you do have with that though is that you can adjust the sprinklers and you could have some be a little more than others. So that's kind of where we're at so far, and we'll do another video some other time to kind of later on in the season to let you know how is it going and which one stood the test of time. As always, doing things yourself does save you money and allows you to be free. See you in the next project.